guys, Olivia here, Pumpkin Hollow Quilts. Today is my grunging tutorial. I have been promising for a while now that I would put one together. I get a lot of questions about how I grunge up the pieces of wood that I use in my cross stitch finishing. And so today I will show you how I grunged up my wooden board for a Halloween piece. So I will flip the camera around and we'll get started. So I went ahead and I have gathered up all of the supplies that I will need for this grunging tutorial slash technique. The first thing that you will need is your piece of wood. For this tutorial, I'm using a piece of wood that I picked up from Michael's out of the unfinished wood section. They have a number of various pieces of wood that go great as backings for any project. This particular piece was $6.99 and I used a 20% off coupon, so I was able to save a little bit of money. I've also decided to leave on the hanger. Sometimes I will cut them off, but I want to have the option of being able to either hang it or just display it in a frame stand. For the color that I'm using today, it is American Decor in the color Heritage. It has a chalky finish and it is sort of like a rustic pumpkin. And the star of the show is the wax. So this is Art Minds in the color Antique. You can also pick this up from Michael's. It is very inexpensive. I think I paid about $4 for it. It has never done me wrong, I guess. I have been able to grunge many pieces of wood using various colors and it always turns out great. Then you will need, and I would recommend 2 paintbrushes. You could get away with just using one, but you would have to wash the brush in between, like putting on the color and then the wax. And then you would have to wash it because the way that I do the grunging is I paint it with the main color, then I grunge it, then I wipe it, then I apply a little bit more paint and a little bit more of wax. And so I like to have 2 paint brushes with both colors on it during that point, and you'll see what I'm talking about as we go along. And then of course, last but not least, you will need a couple pieces of paper towel, and you'll see why. So this is really the only supplies that I use for my grunging. So let's get started. So down in the very corner of your screen, you will see that I have got a little pile of paint here. And so I am going to dip my paintbrush in it and just begin painting. This is probably the most tedious part because you will paint and then you will let dry and then you will paint again. And you don't have to be 100% perfect because we are going to come back over it again. And of course, we will need to add more paint. I feel like I should probably talk during this part. But maybe what I'll do is speed up the camera because it is quite a large piece of wood. But like I said, it's the most tedious part because you're just basically adding and adding. So I will go ahead and pause the camera here and I will come back when I have the whole board completely covered. So I have applied the first layer of paint to my wooden board. I also wanted to just give you a little tip here, and any section where you know that it might be visible, to go ahead and paint that. So for this, I went ahead and I painted the wooden pieces that are holding the 2 slats together, as well as the bottom and all the way around. I did not paint the back because there is no point. It will always be facing away, and so it will not be visible. And if anybody turns the piece around and says, why didn't you paint this? You don't need to be friends with them. That's what we always say in quilting. If somebody flips around and looks at your seams, you don't need to be friends with them. So now I'm going to let my wooden piece dry, and I will come back after I have applied the second coat. All right, guys, so it has been about 2 hours since I applied the second coat of paint. I opted not to show that part too much because really what we're going to focus on now is the antiquing or grunging part. So I am going to take the Art Minds wax and antique, and I am going to paint all over. And this is when I first did it. When I bought the stuff the first time, I had no clue what I was doing. And when I applied it to the board that I wanted to antique, I really thought I had messed up because it immediately turned like this dark brown. And so how I discovered how to grunge was actually due to my accident. And so you will see that this piece here is going to completely just change to a really dark, kind of yucky color. So just gonna paint it. Just kind of long strokes. You don't have to be perfect. The point is just kind of to get this paint on here. And again, I am not a professional in any way. So if there is a better way to do it that you know, go for it. So as you can see, the orange color, the pretty orange color is gone. So now I'm going to take the paper towel, and I'm going to grab it like this, and I'm going to wipe it. Don't have to be perfect because it's the end result is to have something that looks like it has been weathered. And so you just kind of go like that, wipe it all down. Pick up your brush again, and you'll want to go kind of fill this area, the sides, and any other areas that you painted. You just want to cover those up. Grab your paper towel and wipe it. And see how right there, you know, it's got, you know, like grunge, grunge, grunge. And then here you can see some of that paint, some of the orange paint. I'm going to leave it. Turn it, add it again, grab the towel, wipe it. Don't have to be perfect with it. Gets a little tricky. You're definitely going to get your hands dirty. Wipe it. Last side. Wipe it. All right, so now that we have applied the first grunge coat, we're going to let it dry again. And also, if you notice any areas that you don't like, that you feel like there's too much, or by painting it around, you've got this dark line here, you can just go in, apply some paint, grab your paper towel, and wipe it. Like that. And that's what it looks like. Not very attractive. Definitely that orange color is gone or hidden, and so I'm going to let this dry, and then I will be back to show you the next step. So it has been about 15-20 minutes since I applied the antiquing wax. It is dry to the touch. So this part here is going to be kind of your own taste level as far as how you want your grunged up board to look like. So because this is a Halloween board, I definitely want it to be more leaning towards that dirty, grungy look. And so one of the things that I didn't tell you to do was I did not want you to wash your paintbrush because it sort of hardens up a little bit, and I find that it gives me nice like wood grain lines. And so I will actually let the brushes dry and slightly harden. They will wash, so it's not like I now have to throw it away. When I'm done, I will take both the brushes and I will wash them and I will reuse them many times. I think this brush I have probably used for every single one of my grunging projects, and it's still going strong, and I will continue to use it until it falls apart. So I'm going to apply a layer of the orange again. And so what I'm trying to do is kind of mimic some grain lines. And so I will start at this end and work my way across. Just continue to apply it, just kind of wherever. It doesn't have to be perfect because my stitch piece is actually going to cover up a lot of it, as well as whatever I decide to use to, you know, finish it off, whether it's like floral or, you know, what have you. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. And if you get more on one side than you do on the other, that's totally fine because it'll look weather beaten. Okay, so now that I have added that, I do have like thicker spots and I want to leave those. And so now I'm going to dip it in some of the antiquing, and I'm just going to go back over the top of it. I'm going to go back over the top of the wet paint, which will kind of give me this grimy look. So you kind of get it to where you think you might like it. You can, I mean, you can touch this up as many times as you need to if it doesn't look exactly the way, you know, that you want. I don't bother to go over the outside because it's painted enough. And then if I think that I don't really like that, I'll just take my paper towel and I will just go back over it until I just sort of mute it again. And it's not going to, I know that it's kind of, you know, shiny, but it's going to matte up as it dries. And then if you're like, well, I kind of want some more orange, then you just kind of throw it in there wherever you might like it. Just kind of eyeball it. Because if you don't like it, like if you don't like this big old smudge, you can change it. You can take this, you know, or you can take the antiquing wax and you can just go right over the top of it and grunge it back up again. Basically, anything that's going to show is going to be around the outside. This in here is not going to show because my stitch piece is going to be there. And so you basically just play with the colors. I think that is about the color that I'm kind of going for. Except I don't know about this. I think I need it to be a little, just a splash of the orange in there. Yeah, something like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let it dry one more time and see what it looks like in about an hour. And then I will either add a little bit more or the tutorial might be finished. So hang on a second. Okay guys, so another hour has passed. My wooden piece is dry, and at this point it is ready to have my cross stitch piece mounted onto it. However, this tutorial was just my grunging technique. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera back around and chat with you a little bit about different styles of grunging that I have done, just so you can have a little bit of variation. So hold on a sec. Well guys, that brings me to the end of my grunging tutorial. Just a couple of things that I might have forgot to mention. I do not put varnish on my pieces once they have been painted, simply because I do want the option of being able to repaint it if I decide down the road, because occasionally when you change up your decor, you change up furniture or walls, some of the things that you have painted maybe don't kind of clash. And so I want the option of being able to go back in and repainting it if I choose. However, if you know that you are not going to repaint that piece ever again or anytime soon, you would want to put some sort of a varnish. You can get it inexpensively at any hardware store and just apply a coat or two, wait till it dries, and then attach your piece. A couple of pieces that I have out where I can show you what they looked like after I had grunged them. This is a little wooden box that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. This is the original. It was just sort of like a pine, and I brought it home and I really, really grunged it because I wanted it to look like I had basically taken it off the side of a house. And so I think it turned out exactly what I was going for. It was multiple coats of white paint and the antiquing just to kind of get sort of those deep layers, and I love it. It turned out exactly how I wanted it. I did sand the edges, which is something that I did not talk about in this video because I wasn't going to sand my piece, but for this particular one I just took some sandpaper and just kind of went around. I think down the road I might redo this tutorial again when I get a better tripod, and so that way instead of it, because the way that the camera was set up on the tripod that I have, it was right in front of my face, and so I would rather have one that comes down a little bit overhead and gives you a little bit better view. And so when I do that, I will go ahead and go that route where I show you how I sanded and things like that. Another piece that I did was this red box. It actually had, I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and it had some sort of a decoration here. I went ahead, painted it red, gave it a very light coat of that antiquing paint just to give it a very light grunge. And I like how, I mean, you can go as light or as dark as you want. Everything, it turns out great every time. And so this is the original piece that I tried out very first time I attempted any sort of, I wanted to go for an antique look. And so it actually came out more of a light grunge. And the reason why I refer to it as a grunge is because when it's antiquing, it looks completely different. It doesn't look like this. It sort of looks shabby chic. And then I just kind of kept adding and I don't know, to me it was like grungy, so I liked it, sort of like an old and crusty. As Priscilla and Chelsea call it. So this was the very first piece that I did. This has multiple layers of green acrylic paint on it with the antiquing wax, and I just kind of went to town. So it was a lot of fun. You can, and here's what the board originally started off as, just a pine. Paint those sides because you know that people will see it. So any place where you know it's going to hang or prop up, and if you think people are, where it's going to be seen, you can go ahead and add the grunging, but mine always sit flat against a wall or propped up against something. And so I don't bother doing the back. So if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section below. I hope that I was able to, show you. It is very easy and a lot of fun. So, just go have fun. Just go paint a bunch of stuff. And, if you, you do decide to do it in like your cross stitch finishing, you can even do it in your hand embroidery finishing. I mean, just really anytime you want to take something that you've made and stick it to a piece of wood, you can do this grunging technique. And I think it turns out great, classy, I guess. I like it. It's a lot of fun. It's very easy, simple, but if you have any questions, you can go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. If you do the technique and you make something with it, please tag me on Instagram or Facebook. On Instagram, I'm at Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, and on Facebook, I have a Facebook page called Pumpkin Hollow Quilting. I would love to see it. So thank you so much, guys. Happy grunging. Bye-bye.